It's like, and he just nailed that, because it's one thing for me to say that about doing that with a 30-foot tall bird creature. It's another thing to actually make it work. And and so we talked about Elizabeth driving the act. She's the protagonist. He's the antagonist. She wants something. He wants to keep it from her. She needs to get his attention and convince him. And it was really interesting to do that between a human and this thing. Doing that it was two people, two actors who can naturally fall into that. But to animate that in the context of Bioshock Infinite is a very different story.
And I think, one of the things that's different about, Bioshock definitely has a theme of giant metal things sort of protecting, for good or better or worse, young women. But there's a big difference between Elizabeth and, the little sisters. Can you talk about that?
Well, she's an adult, Elizabeth. She wants things in life. Little sisters, not only the children, they don't have any will at all. Elizabeth has enough will to know what she wants, but she can't get there. And so, by definition, because she's not a child, there are definitely, I think you're finding thematic connections between the Big Daddy and Little Sister and Elizabeth and Songbird. There are echoes there, but it's a very different relationship because Elizabeth's not a child. And she's an active participant in this relationship, and there's a lot of ambiguity in the relationship and a lot of strangeness. Like, I knew, if you've ever known people who've been in, unhealthy relationships,
Sure.
There's a lot of ties that bind those people together, and they're really hard to extricate a lot of times. And to do that between a woman and his creature was really challenging. But I think he has to fill that role in this story, and he does.
Well, let's take a quick look at the trailer that you guys released for E3, and we can see a little bit of the Songbird and that relationship.
You cannot keep.
So this is that moment that we had mentioned at that point where Elizabeth is basically saying that she'd rather die than go back to that tower, where she's grown up, and her entire life was spent basically in a room, right, locked away from.
Yep. Looking out on the world. I know this is just little clips, from it. This is from the 15-minute trailer.
But it does give you that sense of Songbird, and I think one of the other interesting things about the game is that, unlike the previous Bioshock, which was really kind of a dark, dank place, it is a place that had already fallen into ruin. This is actually a floating city, beautiful skies, big, wide, open. There's a very different feel to it, but it's still creepy.
Yeah, well, I think, our challenge was not to repeat ourselves, right? We still want it creepy, but we didn't want to do it in the same way. And this world provides, if we're just going to do the same thing over and over again, we kind of die a little bit on the inside. But that means a risk, Hillary. That means that we got to try things that we don't know if are going to work. And that's why the point with these demos is we use these demos as ways to find the things that we're most scared of and confront them. Like these demos where we confront our demons, because we can't half-ass it and show it to the public and be like, oh, it's fine. They're going to tell us whether it's fine or not. And so we have to really make sure that we solve the problems we need to solve. So in this demo, skylines, Elizabeth, Songbird, all those things that we were really struggling with, we just had to make it work, and we had to figure it out for the sake of the game, and we're really happy with where we ended up.
Awesome. Well, that was a quick look and a quick talk about Bioshock Infinite. Now you know all about the Songbird's role in the story and how he or it relates to Elizabeth and your main character, Booker. Thanks so much for Ken Lamine for coming to talk with us.